Welcome back to the shop. Today we're going to be talking about possibly one of the most controversial topics in all of motorcycling, and that is tire choice. Now today's video is not intended to give you my perception of what you should buy, but rather to share with you my personal experience. We're going to make this topic even more of a complex topic because we're talking about ADV tires. ADV tires tend to be even more difficult to select because we're expecting them to cover a much broader set of riding conditions. So I'm going to go through two of my top choices here, and I'm going to ask all of you to put your comments down below with your specific tire that you like, why you like it, and what type of conditions that you ride in. To get started, we'll start with the Hinow K60s. These are the Scout tires from Hinow, and I bought them about 4 years ago, first on my KLR 650, then subsequently used the same tire on my Triumph Tiger 800 XCA. One of the reasons why I really favor this tire is because of its longevity. I would get roughly 6,000 to 10,000 miles out of a set of Hinows depending on the type of terrain and how aggressively I was riding. This is a pretty long distance out of a set of tires and expecting them to hold up. They are a very stiff sidewall tire, so one of the things that I will call out first and foremost is that if you're going to run these tires, be prepared for a little bit more difficulty when it comes to tire changes. It's not that bad if you're in a shop and you have the time and you're trying to change them there, but if you are on the side of a trail, just be prepared. It's going to take a little extra oomph to get these spooned off and back on. In my opinion, these tires offer a really great combination of both on and off-road characteristics. The tread pattern on the Hinow K60 Scouts offers a very smooth and noise-free ride on the road. The tread blocks are cut enough that they handle well in most conditions. However, I will call out two specific scenarios where I think the Hinow K60s fall a little bit short, and one is wet weather. In the wet weather, you really need to be careful of the white lines. I think you'll find this comment repeated throughout the internet forums and other locations. Because the center is a solid block, when you're upright and on the road, if you touch those white lines, they can get a bit slippery. It didn't seem too bad to me personally, but I have had others comment in forums and so on that they had really difficulty in those wet weather conditions. The second place that I'll warn about the Hinow K60 Scouts is the mud. Now, I should caveat this with, so far in my experience, I have not found an ADV tire that handles really well once you get into extremely muddy conditions, because any tire, once its tread pattern gets packed full of dirt, mud, and sand, anything like that, it becomes a slick. The Hinows are no exception to this, but again, because they have the center block that is a solid block, I think what tends to happen is they get really slippery, again, when you're straight up and down on muddy conditions. So that's something to be aware of if you're considering the K60 Scouts. As I said earlier, I did run that tire across two different makes and models of motorcycles, and I had very similar results on both. A pleasant experience on-road and plenty capable off-road. However, once I got the KTM 1090, that bike came with the TKC 80s. And the TKC 80s have since become my personal favorite tire. They are not quite as good, in my opinion, on-road in hard cornering situations as the Hinow K60s, but they do offer better off-road capabilities and are still pretty decent on-road and in those pavement cornering situations. I've been running them. I've had to replace 2 sets, and that calls out one of the first downsides to these tires. The TKC 80s do wear extremely fast, especially on a bike like the KTM 1090. Now, obviously, if I turned on traction control and things like that, didn't spin the rear tire up as much, you could certainly get more mileage out of a rear. However, for me personally, that's some of the fun of this style of riding, so I leave the traction control off, and I enjoy slipping the tire and using that to rotate the motorcycle. Although by doing so, basically I'm getting about 2,500 miles out of a rear. I can usually double a front to a rear, so that means roughly 3,000 to 5,000 miles out of the front and 2,500 miles on the rear. This is pretty extreme wear. It wears very fast. However, you do get phenomenal grip in the off-road conditions. This is the tire that I used on the Colorado BDR trip which covered a wide variety of terrain, everything from the gypsum silt to sand to mud to fire roads, gravel, and pavement. They performed well in all of those scenarios. It's a tire that I'm extremely happy with, and it's the tire that I'm probably going to continue running on my bike. However, if the expenses start to get too frequently, I might consider going with the Hinow K60 Scouts again, or if any of you can offer a suggestion that you feel works really well for you in a broad range of conditions, I might give one of those a try as well. So again, please put your comments below with your preferences and your experiences with those. I think one of the things that we all have to just accept when we're riding these ADV is that no tire is going to be perfect and no tire is going to perform flawlessly in this very, very broad range of conditions that we're riding in. That's a pretty tall order, so I don't know if that's a reasonable expectation, but certainly we continue to search for it. There is one other tire that I'm going to mention, and it was on a motorcycle that I rode, and the only reason why I'm mentioning it is because it's the only time that I've ever jumped on a motorcycle and immediately thought to myself, I don't like this tire. That was the Moto Z tire, and it was running on an Africa Twin. The tire just did not give me good feedback. It felt like it had a lot of vibration. The owner of the motorcycle said that he noticed the same when he put it on there. I don't know if it's just one specific model in the Moto Z lineup, and I don't recall which one it was. But so far my experience with those have been limited, but I was not impressed with the first impressions that I had of that tire. Now, I will mention this Mitas E07, and the reason why I'm going to mention that one is because I was very happy to have it. It was a circumstantial tire. I wound up with a flat on the KTM on the Trans-Wisconsin Trail. If you haven't seen the video, I'll put a link up top. But essentially, we got lucky that a dealership had something for me to put on there that was an ADV or off-road oriented tire, and I was extremely thankful for that. However, it still, in my opinion, is not as good as the TKC 80s, but it did perform a very close second. So, if you're looking for a tire that is basically a good all-around tire, again, decent in off-road conditions, this is another one that I might actually give a second chance somewhere down the line, and I think they are a little bit cheaper than the TKC 80s, and I'll be interested to see what wear is if I decide to run a set of those for the full mileage and wear them out. Once again, this video was not intended to answer all of your questions about tires, so I apologize if you were looking for that, but really I'm hoping that it will spark the conversation. I'm always interested in hearing what other people decide to run as tires, what type of conditions they run in, and what their performance impressions are of those tires. So once again, if you haven't already, be sure to click in those comments below and add your feedback about your personal choice and preference, and we'll be sure to review all of those. If I find one common tire that seems to be coming up over and over and over again, then that may very well be the next tire that I try on the KTM 1090, so stay tuned for that. As always, I want to thank all of you for watching. We're quickly approaching 1,500 subscribers, which is small in YouTube terms, but a pretty big milestone for us, and that is thanks to all of you. So I appreciate all of you that have already clicked that subscribe button, and if you haven't, be sure to click it down below, and be sure to click that bell notification so you can get notified whenever we upload new videos. As always, take care and ride safe.